Hey everyone, it's Tico, and I'm here with the next advanced tarot tutorial. This one's going to be covering alchemy, and more specifically 7 steps of the alchemist. It kind of goes in conjunction with the last video, which was the 7 principles of hermeticism. So there'll be a link in the description down below. If you haven't checked out the last video, I highly recommend you do that. You know, these don't necessarily, they can apply to particular cards, but the reason that I'm going over this information is we're kind of going to be moving deeper into understanding the deck and the cards is to understand that there is a framework which not only can you examine each card through these lenses. So for instance, with the last video, you know, the 7 principles of hermeticism, each one could be viewed or applied to any particular card. Also, all 7 together can be viewed in any particular card or combinations of cards. And it's kind of the same with the steps of the alchemist. Remember that the hermeticists were also the practicers of alchemy. So these were the traditional 7 steps of alchemy, sometimes also referred to as inner alchemy, right? These 7 steps were kind of like a loop or a round in a person's life that contributed to what they called the magnum opus, which was the great work. This is the personal great work of the soul of the alchemist, is to transmute lead, our personal lead, our density, into spiritual gold, something refined and that shines, right? And so there was this 7-step process, and each one of the steps, you know, related to one of the metal elements, moving from lead to gold, and also each was governed by a planet. So all that is in the PDF packet to download. If you don't have a copy of that yet, the link is in the description down below. And these different steps were also symbolized by an alchemist saying, which was visita interiora terrae rectificando in vienes occultum lapidum. So which was visit your inner earth, and through refinement you'll find the hidden stone, which is what they called the philosopher's stone, right? So I'm just going to kind of run through these 7 steps really quickly and talk about it really briefly. Again, this is just something to keep in mind, especially as we're moving into the major arcana. 7 is a number that governs it. There's 21 cards, so there's 3 sets of 7 major arcana. So that those could look at, you know, you could look at conscious, superconscious, and subconscious. These 7 steps mirroring this principle, that could be, you know, there's different ways to apply this information. Mostly I'm bringing it to you so you have kind of just this fundamental background of the people that were working with these cards and, you know, kind of created the standardized tarot deck that we know today. So the first step was what they call calcination. Calcination occurred when a new energy or a new experience comes into our life, and then life as we know it starts to disintegrate. So this is a start of a destruction of our ego or attachment to something in the material plane. It could be considered a controlled burn achieved by a deliberate surrender of our materiality through a variety of spiritual disciplines, right? So this is recognizing that a new experience is coming in and the ego is starting to break down, and we're going to use that flame, that controlled flame, as a deliberate surrender into this process. Okay, that would be the first step, calcination, recognizing the process. The second step then was called dissolution, and this is where the artificial structures of the ego start to go through a further breaking down. This is by a total immersion into the unconscious, the non-rational, or the feminine and rejected parts of our mind. Remember, as we say feminine and masculine, this relates to the hermetic laws of the gender, similar to polarity, right? So we're not really talking about male and female mind here. As our conscious minds let go of control, it allows the buried material, including the shadow side, to surface, and this starts generating new energy by releasing energy that was held subconsciously. The third step in this process then is called separation. And this is where we are forced to make changes or perceive things differently in order to function. So now we have to make changes, or in our perception or in just our physical actions, right? Our spiritual or true self is trying to come forward via a conscious process in which we review formerly hidden material, so what's come to the surface, and decide what to discard or what to reintegrate into our refined personality. So this is a separation. It's a letting go of self-inflicted restraints to our true nature, so our true personality can shine through, right? So the first step, this, it's new energy comes in. The second step, this dissolution, is the breaking down, separation. Now here we're taking what do we want to integrate and what are we going to leave behind, right? The fourth step then is called conjunction. So if one accepts the changes that are occurring, this stage leads to further growth via the union of both the feminine and the masculine sides of our personality, or our conscious and our unconscious. And that union creates a new belief system or an intuitive state of consciousness. Here's what's interesting. If one's ego refuses to let go of the past, it's what they call the lesser conjunction will occur. And the opus, the growth cycle, is aborted. So if we can't let go of those structures, then we end up, kind of like pseudo-integrating it, and the whole deeper process kind of comes to an end, and then maybe we'll start again at the first step, right? However, if we can accept these changes that are occurring and really push that union consciously, metaconsciously, right, of our conscious and unconscious, male or female minds, and creating a new belief system based off of these new perceptions, right, then we can move forward in the process. The next step, step 5, is what they call fermentation. And this is when it's the rotting away of the old in order to make room for the new to be fertilized properly. This is an inspiration of spiritual power from above, like living energy, chi, or kundalini, that reanimates, energizes, heals, and enlightens the alchemist, right? So at this point then, after the conjunction, just like kind of that concept of fermentation, you think of like how things might rot to create an ethanol gas, right? Or something like that. Or coal, oil, something that's like flammable or combustible, but that's even a little heavy here. This is where it's literally then, so now integrating that new belief system, the old, whatever's left, literally just rots away to not only make room for the new to be fertilized, but kind of adds to that fertilization energy, right? Brings in that living chi, makes space and room to bring in those healing energies. The 6th step is called distillation. And this is where the new awakening, that whole step in step 5, is further purified. They also call this like purification of the unborn soul. It's further purified where the alchemist begins to see the reason for this whole process, for this opus more clearly, and surrenders to the higher forces while celebrating and honoring the existence of the other ones. This gets into that polarity and correspondence from the principles of hermeticism. And by doing so, this raises the content of the psyche to the highest level possible, free from sentimentality and emotions, and cut off from personal identity. And then the 7th step, the final step, the lapidum, the gold. This is the final stage. It's revealed in pure wisdom, and one steps more firmly into their truer spiritual self, into their new, more awakened self, having a new confidence that is beyond all things. And what the alchemists believe is this released what they called the ultima materia of the soul. This is the astral body. So then using the astral body, the alchemists believe they could exist on all levels of reality. And this stage is marked by what they also believe was a release of an elixir, an etheric elixir into the air, if you would, or into the ether, called vitriol. It was also into the blood, which rejuvenates the body into a perfect vessel of health and allows the malleability of the physical plane, of the material stability. So, right, most people that run through, I guess you would say, if we were practicing alchemy, when we get, like I said, get to that 4th step, conjunction, the process can abort because we might not be ready to move on with what's called the magnum opus, the great work of our life or great work of our soul. And then these next steps really refine it to a higher level of being, where you're stepping into, your full being, using your astral body, existing on these different dimensional states, and who knows, in the process can run again, right? So those are the 7 steps of the Alchemist. And again, this is just background information for these organizations of the cards and different lenses that we can use to examine not just the cards individually, but the tarot deck as a whole, as a tool to exemplify these steps and work within these steps as well. Infinite blessings.